I just wanted to make a really brief video about Top Surgery Aftercare because I had a comment on my last video about how long to wait to go back to work, etc., etc. So I thought I'd just talk about my personal experience of what I went through about 6 months ago. So when I left the hospital, I had plasters on my nipples, and I had the medical tape over the incisions. And the incisions were also still had quite a bit of glue in them because that was how they were put back together. I think it was glue and dissolvable stitches. So after a few days, I could take off the medical tape, or at least change it if I wanted to. And I kind of picked out most of the glue, like it kind of fell out. So and yeah, it scarred up really fast. So the scars are the first things to appear. One of my nipples was bleeding quite a lot, so I changed the plaster on it every single day. So that was no problem. So obviously you'll get like proper advice on how to look after those things from your surgeon. Make sure you get proper advice as well, because I left feeling a bit unsure, and I didn't have changes of dressings, so I had to go out and buy my own. Well, my parents went out and bought my own, so that was a bit stressful. So yeah, just make sure that you're sent home with stuff to be looked after with. So obviously you get sent home with some drugs and things like that, but you kind of forget about like extra plasters. Yeah, so I kept putting new medical tape onto the scars because it helped with my movement. It felt like I was more secure if I kept it on. So I put the medical tape on and then put the post-surgery binder I got from the hospital on as well, and that just meant that you felt like nothing was where it shouldn't be. You knew you wouldn't do a movement that would hurt you in any way. So the surgeon gave me advice to stay off work for 4 weeks, which I then relayed to my GP. So I had an appointment with my GP within those 4 weeks, and he wrote a sick note for work thing to cover the period that I was off. Because I think the hospital can only give you 2 weeks off, and then you need to see your GP to get you the extra 2 weeks officially off if that's what you need to do at your workplace. I needed that because that meant that I got sick pay, so that meant that I didn't lose any salary by doing that. So yeah, so I got my sick note, had 4 official weeks off, but then I'd also booked off an extra week on top of that, so I didn't go back to work for 5 weeks. I mentioned before that I've got quite an active job. It's just lots of lifting and stretching and things like that. I told my line manager exactly what surgery I'd had, just so that she didn't expect me to do those sort of tasks. So there was a lot of leniency. She would help me out or get a different colleague to help me with those sort of jobs. So that helped a lot. Like, I really do recommend, if possible, being as specific as you can about your surgery to your line manager if you have an active job like I do, because it's just going to make everything so much easier, and no one's going to blame you for not doing certain jobs. Like, they'd understand that you don't want to stretch unnecessarily in areas that are delicate at the moment. So yeah, after I'd probably say a month and a half to 2 months of being at work, I started doing the jobs again that require a bit more stretching, and you can feel it pull. You can feel the stretch of your skin. So I never overexerted. I made sure if I felt like I was stretching, I'd get help. But it's just one of those things that's slowly gonna. I felt at least that it was just slowly you were gonna do it because you want your movement back. The only way to not have stretch scars, in my opinion, is you'd have to lose a certain amount of movement from your body. And that's not something I want. I want to be able to move my arms completely freely, but I guess it's just what's important to you. So, because you have to remember that the scar tissue is it's not skin, it's scar tissue. It's just a different type of tissue. It doesn't have the same elasticity that your skin has. Therefore, it's never going to be able to stretch like your skin does. And you can't expect it to. Unless you were stapled together, or I don't know, maybe wore the tape forever. I don't know what could possibly work. But your scars are going to stretch, and it's best just to embrace that a bit. And you can try and reduce the stretching. So I learned how to do tasks in different ways that I wasn't quite stretching as much. You learn different movements, and just using ladders more helped as well. But my surgeon recommended that you do push the limits a bit to make sure that you don't lose certain mobility. Because I got physiotherapy instructions from the physio at the hospital, and there was a whole bunch of exercises to just slowly get your movements back and to help the muscles obviously go to where all they're supposed to go. Yeah. And I'd say that's probably it for the aftercare in terms of scars. The nipple thing, the surgeon sorts your nipples all out in your post-op appointment. That was after a week. They took out all the stitches and things like that, and all the other stitches that were there all dissolved. And then yeah, nipples just scabbed for a while. When they started scabbing, that hurts quite a bit. It feels raw, which was an odd sensation to feel about 10 days post-op, because by then you don't feel raw anywhere else. You've sort of got used to all of it. But yeah, that was an interesting experience. But yeah, I think that's it. Can't think of anything else. But if anyone else has any more questions, feel free to comment and I will reply as soon as possible. Okay.